Good afternoon. We caught you off with that Christmas intro, but we got the rock and roll thing all the way from Spokane. So, hey, welcome to the first, this is the first one for Christmas for December. So, officially, Merry Christmas. If nobody has been telling you that, I've been looking forward to it there it is. I've been looking forward to it all year long. I've got more trees than you do in my house. And you know what? I challenge you. If you're like, hey, I got more trees than you, let's go. Let's go. We are you can't miss our house. We're out in Akron. It is we're the Griswolds of Akron. That's what I got to say. But anyways, listen, hey, we got some great sponsors. We got Alex Stone and Law Offices. We got Journey Church. We got Meade County Christian School. They got a concert tonight. It is going to be hilarious. If you like Saturday Night Live, like 15 years ago, you're going to love tonight. The last 10 years of Saturday Night Live is what it is. We've got Dunkin' Donuts in Corydon, Indiana, and we got Eric Hoagland, the general contractor. He is the best in the game, but certainly not anything to miss. I'll tell you what, we are in the Messenger studio, where it's the only place to get your news, man. You got to read it, you got to watch it, you got to listen to it, whatever the case may be. Always fair, always honest, and with the most character and integrity. But it is the Thursday podcast. I'm coming at you. My name is Ryan, and it's the Business and Leadership Podcast. Today. This is the strategy. There are so many strategies out there that are saying like, hey, I'm going to make you a millionaire. You know those pyramid schemes, you know those late night info commercials are just like, you want to be great, you want to be successful, whatever that means. Actually, successful is something, and it can be defined. And we're going to talk about the one thing that is a difference between being successful and unsuccessful, because right now in the generation, we are learning that you can technically be a millionaire overnight. The thing is, though, is that it does not last. Like, the model doesn't last. The business model doesn't last. Money comes and goes if you don't know what to do with it. So many times people don't know anything about investing, about saving, that there has to be more income than there has to be outcome. I'm going to share with you something today, whether you're the CEO, CFO, business partner, or you're just, you're in a business, in a company, or in a church, and maybe you're just on lay staff, volunteers, head of departments. Let me share something with you. And so let me ask you this question first, if you've ever felt this way. Because I see this all over the place. You always see on social media these people, or not to say that like they're people, we've all done this once or twice, but a person will go on social media to whatever platform they're doing, and they'll say like, hey, I have this great opportunity. It's brand new. I just signed up. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You got to sign up, and we're going to do this, or we're going to make a lot of money, and we're going to sell this. And then you follow up with them like 4 months later, and they're like, oh, no, I got out of that, but I'm on to something new. And then you follow up with them later again, and 6 months later, it's like, oh, I started school and doing this. You follow up with them again in a year. It's like, oh, I quit that school. I quit that job. I quit this thing. And there is something that is missing. They're wanting to be successful. They're being motivated. They're being easily inspired, which is awesome. I hope that everybody is easily inspired. But what is it, the thing that is keeping them from doing what they love to do? So before I answer that, before we answer that strategy, if you've ever felt that way, or there's three different kind of things out there, right? And so one of them being a church, right? So what is a church? A church is a place of worship. A business is usually smaller than a company, and it's going to focus on one specific industry, right? So maybe there's like an HVAC or a plumbing or like something along those lines. But a company is often going to be something larger of a business that focuses on many different markets. That's the difference between, like a business and a company. But regardless, if you are a church leader, a business owner, or a company owner, or you're on the company, like strategic board of directors, whatever, there's still one thing that is going to separate you from either being a winner or being a loser. And that is going to be this. It's going to be the word consistency. If you are not consistent in the little things, you will never gain the success and the momentum that you've ever desired. And remember that momentum is a leader's best friend. If you are idle, if you are still, you've got to learn to move the ball forward. And the thing is that the hardest thing to do in a business, in a company, or in the church is to get momentum. So once the momentum gets going, you've got to keep going. But the thing is that you have to stay consistent in what you're doing. Somewhere along the line, in those 6 months, 3 months, going back to school, trying this new business, trying this new job, it's not working out, it's not working out, it's not working out. We have the what I want to do, what product I want to sell, where I want to be, but we don't have a strong why. Why am I doing this? So like, it would be a complete disaster as a pastor to say, I want Like my what, I want a large church with a lot of bells and a lot of whistles, right? I think every pastor at one point, probably when they get done with seminar or they get done with college or, their master's, whatever, they're like, oh man, this is what success looks like. But if you don't know the why, because if you have a strong why, you may realize that that is not going to be a good fit. Like there's big churches, there's medium churches, there's small churches. And it doesn't mean that anyone is more successful or less successful than the other one. But if you have the why, if you know why you want it, I want to see souls get saved. I want to see more drug rehabilitations built. I want to see more private schools. I want to see more campuses because I want there to be an extension of Christ. Like when it comes to the Christian school, I want Christ to be in the center of the classroom. That is my why. I want kids to learn to know who Jesus is at an early age because they're going to spend more time in the classroom than they are at the house with the parents. So that is why like the Christian schools are popping up. But that's the why. So it would be wrong to say like, oh, well, I want a Christian school with lots of enrollment, with lots of sports programs and lots of these things. And those things are fine. And, private schools may get there and some of them are there, but they don't start there though. You just don't start with like 500 enrollment and all these, multi-million-dollar things because they're not government funds. So you've got to find personal financing. You've got to find, notes. You've got to find tuition. It's all a different beast. But the why is that if we want kids to know who Jesus is, majority of the day, because that's the majority of the time that they're spending, is going to be the class. Hopefully that they get it, all day long. But at least we know that if they're drawing closer to Jesus, then they're going to be a stronger, more effective Christian later. Not to say that public school is not going to be, but you're understanding what I'm saying, though, is that the what is, I want a lot of kids in the school. That is not going to be there's nothing there. You have to know the why. That's why a lot of people are quitting after 3 to 6 months. They knew the what. I want to be successful. I want to be the top salesman. I want to do this. I want to do this, but they don't know why, the why, right? So with that coming up, the difference between the what and the why, here's what we know that is coming up in January, right? Everybody is probably going to make a New Year's resolution, and there's only two. You want to lose weight and you want to make more money. Right? Whether it's like making your business more successful, but at the end of the day, you want things to be bigger, you want things to be better, or in this case in the gym, maybe you want bigger biceps, but you want a less gut. But let me share this with you. Successful people don't do extraordinary things. They do ordinary things extraordinarily well. Right? They stay simple. They stay exactly what's in their wheelhouse. They understand what they're good at, what they're not good at, instead of trying to be a jack of all trades, which if you're a jack of all trades, that's awesome. Here's what I can tell you, though, for those of you that are still, that you're not a jack of all trades, I would not recommend trying to be a jack of all trades, because if you're trying to be good at everything, you might end up being great at nothing. Right? So you are going to need to go down a different alley. You're going to need to develop, and you're going to need to build on something. But if you're relying on yourself to do every single thing, you'll never raise that ceiling. And so what I'm suggesting is that successful people don't do extraordinary things. They do ordinary things extraordinarily well. Make sure you know what you do extraordinarily well, and then build your team around that to fill in the gaps of where you're not, and then don't get distracted every time something that you're not good at comes up, because you're going to delegate that out. But let me read this for you. New Year's resolution, right? Most people, including, maybe it's you, maybe it's me, are going to want to lose weight. We just want to lose weight, right? But we're just like, we're crushing Thanksgiving right now. We're going to crush Christmas, and we're going to tell ourselves, I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to get that membership. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to eat breakfast. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And the thing is that 2 weeks later, it used to be like mid to late February when people would quit their resolutions. Not anymore. 88% of people are going to quit their resolutions by January 14th. 2 weeks later, people are going to call it in. Why? Because they were not consistent. They knew the what. I want to lose weight. I want to look better in pictures. I want, but they didn't know the why. And let me tell you the difference. You're like, well, I know exactly why I want to lose weight. No. You didn't have a compelling why. You might have known the why, but you didn't have a compelling one. If a doctor came to you and said, hey, listen, let's say that you smoke. Let's say that you smoke, right? And the doctor comes and says, hey, if you do one more cigarette, you're going to drop dead. And let's say that you got young kids. I guarantee you'll have the most compelling why you've ever had in your entire life to put the cancer stick down and stick around for your kids, right? That's a compelling why. And the thing is that's going to keep you from death is consistency. Every time you want to put that cigarette in, you're going to put it down, you're going to break it up, you're going to, you're going to throw it away, you're going to put it in the trash, whatever the case may be. But you now have a compelling why. People will not have a compelling why when they go to the gym. They're just going to be like, well, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to look. Well, maybe you need to be healthier. Maybe you need to breathe a little bit better. Maybe you need to move a little bit faster. Maybe you need to sleep a little bit better. Maybe you'd like to be around for a little bit longer. But whatever the case may be, you need a compelling why, because a compelling what is not going to last very long, right? One thing that I'm doing right now is I'm taking a team to Kenya and Tanzania in June. And half of us are going to go climb Mount Kilimanjaro to raise funds for fresh water and building an auditorium for a school. It's going to be amazing. But I knew that if I was going to do that, I knew what was. I knew that I'm going to have to probably be lighter because I'm going to put on like a 50-pound backpack and I'm going to have to go up, 20,000 feet over the course of 5 days. That was compelling enough for me to be like, I've got to put the fork down. I love the gym. I go to the gym all the time, but it's the diet, right? It's the diet. So once it's figured out to put the fork down, to do the portions, to be healthier, to choose it, it was a matter of 6+ months, but it was the consistency. It was the decision to do the right thing every single time. And I'm not saying that you have to be perfect, but you do have to be consistent. You drop the ball once, you got to make sure you don't drop the ball 2 or 3 times. You start doing 2 or 3 times or 4 times, you're going to create a habit. And if you know anything like me, if you go to church and you miss a month, it is so hard to go back to church. If you go to the gym and you miss the gym for 3 or 4 days, it is so hard to get back into it because you're saying, well, I already lost all that progress. What's the point? I guess I'm fine. And you justify it, you compromise, you go back to your old ways. And then all of a sudden 3 months later, you're quitting something. And you say, what happened? And you'll blame everybody and everything. And that's not the case. It was the fact that you were inconsistent because we didn't make the right decisions every single day. So consistency is going to require willpower. Willpower is great, but willpower is going to give out because you're going to get tired. What you don't need is willpower. You need why power. You need why power. Why am I doing this? Let that be the reminder. For an example, all right, so here's a good saying. What you're not changing, you're choosing. Think about that for a second. If you are not changing something, you're choosing not to change it. So if you tell yourself this year, I want better friends, but you stay with your friends, then you're choosing to be with your toxic friends. If you know that they got to go, but you don't choose to leave them, then you're choosing to stay with them. Inconsistent. You know the what, but you don't have the why power. You've got some willpower. You'll break it off for maybe a week or something, but then you'll go right back to them. You got the will. You have the willpower, but it's going to run out. You need the why power. You want to be more financially stable this year. You want to make more money. So you're going to start working a little bit harder. You're going to start overperforming. You're going to continue to deliver. And earlier today, I was on the phone with an employee in another state, and they're just like, hey, why am I not being noticed? And I said to them, well, first of all, you've only been with the company for 45 to 50 days, right? So there is opportunity there to perform and to deliver. And the thing is that there is no performance there. There is no delivery. If anything, we're actually under delivering and we're over promising, and we're now feeling like we're entitled to a raise just because we want one, not because that we deserve it. And that was a hard concept for this young kid. He's 21, 22. But if you want to be more financially stable, you want to raise, you've got to overperform, over deliver. Right? Set expectations and meet those expectations and go above those expectations. That's how you get noticed. And the thing is, though, is that if you just do it once, that's great. But if you're doing it all the time, you're building consistency. Your superiors, your boss, your partners, your coworkers, your peers, they will notice that. You just got to make sure that you're in a business that won't do the blessing and the cursing where you get blessed with more responsibility because you're good at what you do when really becomes a curse and you don't get that raise. You got to be careful of that, right? And if you're a leader and you're head of a business, you got to recognize that if somebody's over-performing and over-delivering or always delivering, don't put a curse on them because they're blessed in the business. They will leave and they will go where they are going to be recognized. And I believe that it's 94% of people will leave their job because they do not feel valued. It doesn't mean that they're not, but they don't feel it, right? So think about that. If you want to be close to the Lord, you should go to church and get equipped by a Bible-believing local pastor, right? Online, that's great. It's not the same, right? You can watch a movie, but to experience it in real life is going to be much, much different, right? You can watch a roller coaster from a screen. That's awesome, but it's so much different when you're in real life. So if you want to get closer to the Lord, you need to find a local church and you need to attend, and you need to attend faithfully. Be consistent with that because you know that you sleep in a couple times, bedside, church assembly, whatever, You're going to find yourself compromising. Oh, I'll just watch online, and then watch online. Well, I'll just read my Bible by myself. And you need to be shepherd. You need to be shepherd. That's what shepherds are there for, is to shepherd you, right? So consider that. For those of you that are an entrepreneur, which we celebrated a couple weeks ago, let me just give you a word of encouragement, especially during the holiday season, because sales can go up. And if you're a landscape or you're, you could be media, you could be donuts and coffee, right? Whatever the case may be, sales have a tendency to kind of plateau. And like for the donut business, January and February are awful, are absolutely awful. We've actually been putting away all kinds of finances during the great months, because we know that, hey, come January and February, everybody is absolutely spent with their money, because we just spent money on people that we felt obligated to, that we probably wouldn't have bought if we didn't feel like we had to. We're maxed. We overspend. It's like Christmas like surprises us every single year. Okay. But it doesn't. But for those of you that are the head of your department, you're the pastor, you're the business owner, you're the company owner, or you're, whatever the case may be, let me just give you a word of encouragement during the holidays, especially if you feel like you're up against a brick wall. You're not really in the game until you've placed your head in your hands in the dark, wondering how on earth is this thing going to work? Until you've been sued, false allegations brought against you, people copying you, stealing from you, lying about you, slandering about you, people leaving your organization, you haven't really sat in the chair and played the game. Until you've been pulled and pushed and yanked through the coals and you've come out on the other side, I promise you, one, you will be a more effective leader, but the process is oh so stinking painful. But remember, you're going to use this to lead somebody else down the road, but your team watching you go through this will respect you because you didn't give in. And so my word of encouragement to you is stay consistent. Don't start cutting corners. Don't start trying to do this or do that, or start thinking so out of the box that you leave your entire mission, your values, your visions. Stay consistent. Put one step in front of the other. It will pay off. You will come out on the other side. Everything is a process. Trust the process. So stay consistent and do not get distracted. Oh my gosh. That is probably the one thing that is the worst for any business owner or CEO or whatever the fact may be, is this is happening and you start thinking away from all of the things. What's happening is you're getting distracted. Don't get distracted. Stay consistent. I just wanted to circle around that a little bit one more time. Hey, pastors out there, be consistent in what you preach. Do not live a life off stage and be a totally different person on stage. I can't stress that enough. Be the same person on and off stage. You may be a talent. There are so many more talented, polished teachers and preachers out there than I am. There are some incredible people, but I want you to know though, that if they're not the same person off stage, people will recognize that. They may be shiny, they may be they may be convincing and convicting, but they're going to watch that. And if you are the pastor, don't do that, right? You need to be spending time in the Word, and you need a burden to want to prepare the message, and it needs to take you a long time. I have known so many people. I was on a 20-hour flight one time, and there was a pastor next to me, and he's like, I just wrote my sermon in 5 minutes, and I was just like flabbergasted. I will sit and think about the language. I will sit and think about the lingo. I will sit and think about, like, what does the Holy Spirit want to go with this one? I will bring all kinds of verses. I will write a teaching. I'm not saying that you have to model me. Of course not. But when I get done with the teaching, I have to cut like 70% of it because of all the things from the history and the location and the hermeneutics and like all these other commentaries. Like, I want the most compelling things to educate and equip a saint whenever I have the very few moments of their attention to tell them and show them what the Word of God says. Just getting up there on stage and just rambling for 45 minutes, people may be attracted to that, but they're not being equipped as they leave, and you're failing as a shepherd. That is not a shepherd. That is an entertainer. And there, and I want to share a quote with you here in a little bit, but the thing I want to share with you is, here's the quote right here. A passion to preach, which is fine, which is great. I love teaching. I love teaching. A passion to preach, but without a burden to study is just a desire to perform. Let me say it again. A passion to preach without a burden to study is a desire to simply perform. And shepherds, pastors, teachers, you owe, if you have the opportunity to step onto anything and teach the word of God to just one person or multiple, you have the biblical obligation and duty to make sure that not only that everything you say is 100% biblically factual. I'm not saying you have to be perfect in living that, but you ought to be, your sanctification ought to be drawing closer to that every single day and loving Jesus. But if it's just to get up there and hoop and holler for a while, they will find out eventually. They will find out eventually, and they will leave because they're not being fed legitimately. Sometimes people will say, well, I'm not being fed. And my question is even when, they're not a part of the church, our church or the church, they say, I'm leaving this church because I'm not being fed. My first question is do you know how to eat? Like, are you attending faithfully and consistently? And they're like, well, no. And I'm like, are you faithfully and consistently in the Word of God every morning? Well, no. Are you praying with your spouse? Are you praying with your kids? Are you like doing family time? Are you encouraging? Well, no. Then you don't know how to eat. You don't know your shepherd's voice. I'm not saying this to pastors. I mean, the shepherd's voice is Jesus. But just remember that a passion to preach without a burden to study is a desire to simply perform. And what's happening is that people are just eating the bread alone and not from the word of God. Matthew 4:4. So as I begin to wrap this up, these final thoughts, right? Because consistency, and if you've been kind of having this on the background while you drive or where you are and stuff like that, consistency is the essential quality for success. Did you hear that? I know you heard the word success. Consistency is the essential quality for success, and it will work for everyone, but consistency is a process, so learn to fall in love with it. Don't get distracted by the goals, where you're going to be in 10 years, all the dreams. That's great, but if you're not consistent in your day-to-day operations, you will never get there. And remember, it comes down to systems and personnel. Systems and personnel, it's that simple. Systems, if the person is wrong, they're wrong. If the system is wrong, it's wrong. But you got to figure out which one it is. So be consistent. Learn to love the process. Stay faithful. Step in, step out. And I know that the Lord will bless you as long as you put it in His name. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today. It is the Ryan Frank's Business Leadership Podcast. As always, thank you to the Messenger Studios for crushing an incredible business. Can't stop enough there. And hey, have an amazing new year, but we're going to come back to you a couple more times and help you get ready for January as you tackle some of these new visions that the Lord's laid in your heart. All right. Till then, be blessed.